Okay, we have a series of three cases this week on sex and gender in Chapter 12. The first is the legalese of sex and gender, and this is an important case study because it really does get into much of the confusion that you see relative to these two terms. To review, gender is a cultural construct, whereas sex is generally more of a biological or genetic given. For example, sometimes you'll be filling out an application and they'll use the word gender when they really mean sex, and there's often a confusion that can be attributed maybe to the complexities of these terms, and this case study I think addresses that. Next is called Real Life Freaky Friday. So it asks people to consider situations in which you can imagine not directly connecting your identity to your biological given sex. So getting into transgender issues, for those of us who are not transgender, we refer to ourselves as cisgender. So there'll be a lot to consider this week relevant to gender identity and related issues. And then the last one is called case study Being Male, Being Female, and Being Healthy. There was a study that was done, and it talked that in general, when females were looked at, they were often considered of being either unhealthy or not of sound mind. So there was a weakness attributed, according to the study, to how women were perceived. So I think it's a very important case study to look at this week. When we consider sex and gender, I really do encourage you to look at some of the work I've done. So in the discussions, I'll mention some work on gender and masculinity I've done, including a short interview I did with the Washington Post on a Kate Upton Gillette commercial. I also will give you some blog and video reactions to look at. And I'll give you my work, the Gender Ads Project, which is just genderads.com. And that's a website that focuses on gender analysis using the world of advertising. So I think you're going to have a lot of provocative stuff to focus on this week, either using the case studies or some of the other discussion topics that I've given you as options this week for Chapter 12, focused on sex and gender.